Hello and welcome to Get to Know Them podcast. This is a podcast in which I'm gonna talk with some of the world's highest performers in order to learn more about them. I'm your host, Ken Shurigoy. I hope you enjoy. So, who do we get to know today?
Eloise du Luart.
And who is Eloise? What do you do?
It's a great question, but I'm currently a professional triathlete focusing on the middle distance to longer distance triathlon. I also work part-time as a social media marketing executive to help the journey along the way. And yeah, that's pretty much just me in a nutshell right now.
So, how long have you been doing triathlon?
A long time, since end of 2012, after I had multiple running injuries. I decided to put all my cross training into a race and I did a triathlon for fun.
And that fun soon became a professional triathlete journey, or how did fun turn into a profession?
Yeah, 3 years later, I technically turned professional for the first time. I had a very quick rise to success, I guess, but with all very quick rises, there was quite a few downfalls after that. And then I sort of returned professional properly. I'd say, well, it was 2018, I believe, but I wasn't really sort of racing properly until 2021 due to a lot of injuries and just refinding my feet in the sport, I think.
Can you take us a bit deeper into what you mentioned was a quick rise and then a huge downfall? What happened?
Sure. So the first 3 years just sort of went straight into training. I won amateur, world, and European titles, even though I couldn't really swim, but I biked and ran. So I was like, yeah, this is great. Did my first 70.3, went perfectly, qualified as the fastest age grouper in 2015. Got my pro license at that race. And then I started getting quite a few injuries. And I didn't think much of them, but it sort of meant that my first pro race in 2015 came off the bike in third, and I actually couldn't finish the run. I was in so much pain. So that winter, I tried to look into a lot of things, and then I got another very, very big stress fracture in my hip. And it turns out that the years of, I guess, under fueling as a runner, and also I did have a history of an eating disorder, which I hadn't really sorted out, led to some pretty chronic injuries that I needed to deal with and also address my health. For example, as a female, get back my menstrual cycle, make sure I was the right weight, make sure all the hormones and everything else was balanced, which I hadn't had for 8 years. So everything sort of fell in, which was expected given everything, but it meant that I pretty much had to relearn everything. And it meant that my performance was anything but first and foremost pride and center, and also meant my body was really, really struggling to perform for a very long time after that, which you can imagine putting it through hell for a long time and then trying to perform isn't going to work. And then it was sort of just injuries on injuries, learning a bit more about my body and triathlon training. I think I'd taken a lot for granted. It's very easy to see everyone else doing X amount of hours and you're like, yeah, I can do that. But everyone's different and you need to learn your body and learn what you can do. So it was years of just relearning everything and also trusting the fact that it's okay to do it my way. And I sort of changed that versus trying to be everyone else. Actually, I want to do it my way. And yeah, so that was sort of the rise and fall and rise again. Obviously, there's always things that go on in sport, and everyone has niggles now and again. But I sort of feel like I'm for my body wise and training wise, minus a few months this year, in a good place now. And I understand what I need to do to perform and what I need to do to stay healthy. So yeah.
That's very nice to hear. Thank you. What is the thing that you like the most about triathlon, and which things do you dislike the most?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I like the most is the challenge. I think so many times I think I could have given up the sport, and I think I nearly did, but I didn't, because the challenge and the problem solving attracts me. There's 3 sports. You can peak in one of them and be terrible in another one at the same time. It just messes with my brain. And I like putting puzzles together and I like working things out. So I think that's what I love the most about it. What I dislike, probably swimming. No, I don't mind swimming, but it's a chore. It's a chore.
Okay, so maybe this next question is not going to be so difficult for you. Which is your favorite swim, bike, and run workout? And which workouts do you hate the most?
Okay, so bike, to be honest, I just love long rides. Like, I'm in the mountains at the moment. A long ride in the mountains, as long as you feel good, is amazing. You can just do anything on the bike and just, yeah, it's cool. And descending, love descending, so that's cool. Running, I think if I feel good, it's threshold sessions. Like, there's nothing better than that, like floaty hard feel when you're feeling good. Swimming, I have to feel good when I'm swimming, but I actually like hundreds. Anything to do with 100, love hundreds. I've got hundreds today, so I'm in a good mood. Dislike swimming 400s, hate 400s. Terrible. Slow, easy, hard, always hate them. But sometimes you've got to do them. And then cycling, I don't really think I have one I hate cycling or dislike. Probably when it's like 30 times 3 minutes at race pace, I just get really bored, which is probably not a good thing that we race that, but it's just quite boring, and it doesn't hurt enough to be distracting. It's just boring. And then running, probably the same as cycling. If there's like long intervals where it doesn't really hurt, but it does hurt, and you've got to stay focused, and you're a bit tired, yeah, probably those ones.
Speaking about being bored or maybe being tired, what keeps you going, especially when the things get hard for you in training?
Well, often I have good music on that I really tick with music. But I think more the mental games I play with myself is the fact that I believe I've come back from worse. So what's 30 minutes of your life? It's tiny. And if this is what you want, 30 minutes is nothing. Just get it done. And then I go from rep to rep. I think that's how I phase it. Or if there's a swim I don't want to do, be like, what? It's an hour of your life. Just do it. And you'll be fine. And I usually enjoy it once I start.
Yeah, that's a nice way of approaching things. You can do anything for a minute, for 2 minutes, for 10 minutes, or what is 10 minutes in your life. That's a nice perspective. Do you maybe have a favorite quote or a mantra that you keep saying to yourself?
I think one of my favorite quotes tonight is actually my Instagram bio because of it. The quote is, be yourself, everyone else is taken. And that sort of, it resonates with me, and I think my journey as well. Everyone's so ready to call you the next, or I want to be the next. Why don't you just want to be the first you? Like, I don't get it. Like, I used to be that person, don't get me wrong. I used to be like, I'm going to be her. And I'm like, why would I want to be her? Like, I don't want to be her. I want to be me, and I want to be as good as I can be. So I think that's probably my favorite quote, and it resonates. And then I guess mantra, yeah, just have fun, really. Like, there was a mantra for the ZLMC World Championships in 2015, which was like, let the happiness in. And I think, not that I use that, but it's the same as, there's a reason I do this. It's not because I want to, yeah, of course I want to win, like I'm competitive, but I'm really lucky that I love what I do and I find it really fun. And there's nothing that, for me, I'm having fun if I feel good and I'm hurting myself and just going for it. So yeah, I've got to remember this is what I do for fun, and it's a choice. So yeah, let the happiness in, I guess.
That's also nice to hear. I think many people will resonate with this, or maybe should resonate, but don't, because I think especially age groupers take this triathlon or any other sport way too seriously. And we act like it's the most important thing in the world, but we keep forgetting that this is something that we do not as our job, but on the side, and that the things are supposed to be fun. So yeah, I think having
if you don't
fun.
enjoy it, don't do it. So,
Yeah, exactly. Do something else. But you mentioned a lot of things about your journey. So let me ask you this. What do you think has been your biggest success so far, both in triathlon and in life in general?
oh, that's really hard. I think in life, it's hard. I'm getting emotional. I don't know why. But I'd say in life, probably my biggest success, I think, is being resilient. And I would never have thought of that before. I think this year, yeah, my biggest success is being resilient. And however much, of course, every setback hurts mentally, and every setback, you're crying. I'm always crying, and you think it's the end of the world. But actually, I seem to have ability to just laugh at it. After I've gone through the crying end of the world phase, I'm like, hey, it could be worse. I'm still here, right? Again, I do this for fun, and yeah, let's just laugh in the face of it and move on. And again, of course, we all have bad days, but I think that's probably my biggest success. And then in triathlon, it's also a hard one because, again, like I was very successful in inverted commas when I started, but when I look back, there was a massive cost to all that. And one of my big things now is, of course, I want to be as good as I want to be. Of course, I want to be as highly ranked as possible. Of course, X, Y, Z. But I don't ever want to look back and have regret or be like, yeah, you did that, but it was at what cost? Like, yeah, I won this. And yeah, I did that. Yes, I was the fastest this, but at what cost? I then had 5 years of injuries and hormonal issues. That's a massive cost for me. I don't want that. So yes, I guess on paper, there's success there. I think from now, I don't really think I have one. There's nothing that really stands out because of that. Obviously, I have races which are my best races, but again, I think I'm still waiting for the performance that like shows what I can do in training and shows me as a person now. And I think that will be success for me, whatever that is. I think that's what I'm looking for, and that's what I'm excited about.
Okay, and I believe that with your approach to life and training, you're soon gonna find this success.
Thank you. Well, fingers crossed.
What do you think contributed the most to the success you've had so far?
I think it's resilience. I think it's the ability to pick myself up and also move on. Again, as I said, there's always been bad days and there's always going to be bad days. But I think now I look at it as before I looked at it session to session. Like if I had a bad session, I would be the end of the world, moving on, be like, oh, I can't do this sport. Now I just go for average. Every single day, it's just consistency. And I think that comes with being able to be resilient, being able to pick yourself up, but also not trying to be the best every day. Just try and give your best on that day. And some days you can't give 10,000%, but other days you can and maximize that. And I think it's the consistency and ability to keep going when things aren't going forward. I think that's probably has helped me get this far, and I do believe it will create my best next few seasons ever because of that. So fingers crossed.
And what do you think made you realize, or how did you get this realization that you just have to be not perfect, but just good enough each day? And you just have to stay consistent, because obviously someone that is highly competitive wants to be perfect all the time. How did you come to this realization?
I think, to be honest, it's through the amount of injuries and realizing that you can go hard every single day, but at a point you break. And I used to see a session and be like, I want to beat that session. So I beat it. Like if I'd told I needed to do, let's say 160 watts, I'd come back and do 190 watts. Why? Like, why? Or if I wanted 300, I do let's do 350. Like, why? I used to want to do that. And now I realize, one, you just burn out and you break. And two, you have coaches for a reason, and they give you the plan for a reason. And that's for you to be able to consistently hit it. And consistently hitting things does much better than getting to end of a block being completely broken. But if you can do another week at X amount of hours, that's so much better than doing 3 weeks of X amount of hours, then doing 1 week of 2 hours. Like that builds nothing. And I think age and experience and knowing that you've just got to do what you can do and do it okay and tick the box, obviously, as best as you can on that day. That's all you need. And days turn into weeks, that turn into months, that turn into years. That's when you get performance. It's not in 2 months. And I think so many people think it is, or chase that, when actually for real performance and real success, it's long term. And you've got to do the long term. You've got to do the time.
I hope a lot of people listen to this advice and actually stick to it, so they don't have to go through all the difficulties and hard times that other people went through to get to this realization. But you were talking a lot about the difficulties you had. What do you think has been the biggest failure in your life so far?
Well, that's a big question. Biggest failure. I think now my biggest regret, I always said it, and I know at the time I couldn't have changed it, but my biggest regret is not recovering from my eating disorder earlier. And again, it's a mental illness. I guess I tried to recover and couldn't before, but now, having been completely healthy, being totally fine and mentally stable, I guess, I look back and I do think, where the hell was I? Like, why didn't I change? Like, didn't have anything, but I thought I had everything. So I think that's probably my biggest regret. I can't blame myself again, because I couldn't have changed at the time and I had to get to the right time to change. But that, I guess, is a big regret. And then I've made a lot of bad decisions and I've failed a lot of times. But I think every single time I've learned from it. So yeah, I think that's my answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Thank you. But if we step away from triathlon for a bit to a bit more specific and fun questions, what's the one thing that you wanted to do for a long time but just haven't done it yet?
I've always wanted to go to Japan, but haven't done it. It's a proper trip, so you've got to plan it properly. And I wouldn't want to go as a triathlete. I want to go and do it properly. I don't want to go and just race and then rock up in a car park and leave. I want to go and see the country. So I need to plan that. That's probably on my list. And then, yeah, there's a few others. There's like be fluent in a few more languages, but that I'm going to have to wait. I haven't got much time at the moment.
Yeah, because my next question is gonna be, when are you gonna do it? How much longer are you gonna postpone all these things?
Um, well, like, to be honest, my new like also a new manager this year is just do it now. But because I want in the list of priorities, my triathlon is, and I guess is at the top in my life. That's all I have right now in terms of priorities. That I think it has to be. I'd probably say in 5 years. In 5 years, I'll do it. Or when I retire from triathlon, I'll treat myself and go on a long trip.
You just made it public, so somebody's gonna remind you in 5 years. Have you been
Exactly.
to
I'll set a
Japan
reminder
yet?
on my phone. I'll be like, hey, but time is precious, and yeah, we should all do it now, but it would affect my other choices.
No. I completely understand. Now, my next question is meant to be fun, but knowing about your history might also be a bit difficult. If you
Okay.
could only eat one meal or one food for the entire life, which one would it be?
I think it has to be pizza. So that's a very easy question for me. I think pizza. Yeah, I love pizza. I actually had one last night. Yeah, very good.
That's a great choice. Pizza is also my choice, so I totally agree with
It's
you.
just natural.
That's the only correct answer.
Exactly.
Which
Agree.
song gets you happy the most or the most time?
Oh, I love music. Well, cheesy music, let's not lie. I think right now I go through phases of which song is like my pickup song. It sounds really weird, but I have phases. Um, yeah, I think it has to be Queen. What is it? Oh, I Want It All, by Queen at the moment. And also Faded by Alan Walker at the moment, which is a bit dark, but it has a really motivational undertune to it. So that works. But I'd say, yeah, well, any Queen song really. And then probably at the moment, Faded Alan by Alan Walker. Yeah.
Okay, good choices. What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, Christ. Uh, Apart from chocolate, which I think is a very like obvious one. To be honest, I love binge watching. Because I have an addictive personality. I hate having to like do episode 1, 2, 3. I like just watching. I haven't done it for a while because I haven't had much time, but I binge watching crappy episodes, like really cheesy stuff. Yeah, I love that.
And it pairs well with recovery, I guess.
Exactly. That's my excuse. As long as you don't stay up too late because you just got to do one more.
Okay, nice choice. On the other hand, what's the thing that makes you grumpy or annoyed?
One thing that drives me nuts, and it's sort of triathlon related, but it's in life related, is when technology doesn't work how it should. So whether it's your bike computer doesn't work, or whether it's your phone doesn't work how it should, like anything that's you've bought or paid money to do a service and then doesn't, that drives me nuts.
And is there a time limit when not working becomes acceptable or?
No, it's just
Okay.
unacceptable. But then it often means I throw money at the problem. For example, I need to fix puncture, and I've got completely the wrong tools, or the wrong valve extender, the wrong tire, So now I have to go find help and throw money at the problem because I have all the wrong stuff with me.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. If you could enforce one rule for the entire world, which one would it be?
Smile, like smile. Does you have to smile? There's so many people I see like look miserable. I know this like I don't know what's going on in their lives. I don't know, but I do know that even if you're having a terrible day, if someone smiles at you, smiling back makes you feel good, like, or makes you feel better. Whatever shit you're going through, if someone smiles at you and you smile back, you're like, yeah, it's pretty trivial. So I'd say smile.
Easy to be done. Nobody should have problems with it.
Yeah, and even if you don't feel it, if you smile, you do generally feel better.
Yeah, exactly. What would you say is the biggest stereotype about triathlon?
Hmm. Biggest stereotype, probably. I don't know actually. I'm trying to think of all like stereotypes. I'd probably say sort of extreme, which it is extreme, but I think a lot of people think they can't do it because it's too extreme, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does, especially because a lot of people only know about Ironman events, and
Yeah,
these are
exactly.
actually the longest events in triathlon. They don't know that they can just do a sprint version or even super sprint version. They can
Yeah.
just
So
do.
that's the first triathlons I heard of were Kona and Ironman. I thought an Ironman In an oven, absolutely no way. And I ran 5K, so you can imagine me being like, nah, not going to do that.
And if you weren't a professional triathlete, but you could be a professional in one other sport, which one would you choose?
It'd definitely be track and field. So I'm going to say I'd probably be a high jumper. I used to high jump. I'm not tall enough. I'm not but I used to do competitive high jump to the level I could do it at. I loved it. It was a really good sport. That or probably heptathlon. Heptathlon sounds fun because you get to do loads of sports. So those two, yeah, track and field.
Okay, but you obviously choose triathlon. It seems like you love it. My next question is, why do you still do triathlon?
I have a lot of unfinished business with it, I think, but also, again, I've met so many people. I've like been lucky enough to bump into people at races, through like even social media, friends that I've been reconnected with through triathlon. And again, there's nothing, as I said, I find it fun, but there's nothing I find more fun than training with others and sharing journeys with other people. And also seeing their success. Like I really feel their success. Like my good friends actually makes me as happy as if I had won a race, if they do well. So I think from the emotional and personal, I'm very invested in that and in people's journeys. So I think that keeps me here. And I think we are very lucky that we have a nice community. Like it's generally nice. Of course, there's always the so-and-so, or there's always things going on, but I think we're really lucky that our sport is quite small in the big scheme of things, but also it attracts a lot of like-minded and adventure focused and excited people, which I love. So yeah, I say the people.
That's a nice answer. Thank you. At the end of the podcast, I let the guest leave a question for the next upcoming guest. My previous guest was Didi Grisbauer, a professional triathlete from USA, and she wants to know if you would be more enthusiastic about the sport of triathlon or less enthusiastic if there was no such thing as social media.
That's really good. That's a really good answer. Really good question. I think I'd just be the same, as enthusiastic about it. Like, I think social media is great. It has a lot of hype, but also today I actually saw a few triathlon related posts, which are just so, I'm going to say it, boring. Like they're actually making the sport boring. And also, especially from a professional, I find that a lot of social media outlets in triathlon about professionals, they forget that it's not Formula One and we're not a massive, massive sport. And it almost makes it quite fake when actually we need to remember, obviously it's all about professionalizing sport. I'm all for making it bigger, don't get me wrong. But I think it's sort of, we've got to understand that it's a much smaller sport and the conversations are different. And I think, yeah, there are certain conversations which I don't think add anything. But then of course there are great conversations and good cuts that make it really, really exciting, especially with like the Pro Series and T100. There is some fun clips going on, but there's also the other side of that. So I'd say probably the same in terms of enthusiastic about it, because again, I think I'd do it anyway. If I didn't see on, so I'd definitely do it anyway. And I'd definitely want to meet other people through it anyway. So I'd say the same.
I'm gonna go on from Didi's question because Didi came from the perspective of professional triathletes having to balance their professional career and both being kind of like influencers and posting stuff online and such. What is your perspective on this? Do you think that having this influencer piece in the journey of a professional triathlete is beneficial or harmful?
Oh, I've got a two-part answer, because I work in social media and I manage an athlete and I work for companies that ask athletes to post. I really actually feel for athletes a lot in terms of, obviously I'm an athlete myself, but as when I'm working in a more of a business sense, is there's an expectation. Again, we forget that it's not Formula One. All these triathletes don't have their own media team. Some do, often the really top ones that have much, much higher incomes. And so the requests for content and content creation is massive. And I think and then there's a lot of, I guess, frustration and from the companies when those athletes, certain athletes' content isn't up to the standard they were expecting. It's because they don't have media teams, they don't have videographers, they don't have people that understand social media and the metrics and the performance behind making a good post or making something professional, because that's not their job. Their job is to perform. And I think that is often, again, it does harm the sport a bit. And also I think it is stressful for athletes. And it is part of the sport now. Like, we have to admit it. It's a big part of contracts, but I think that side of it is hard for triathletes, unless you have those teams, unless you have someone who's thinking up good social content and also having the media team to produce it, which is very different to someone, let's say, and again, I'm going to mention it, Formula One, they don't see their social media. They get, there's teams that do it for them, and that's very, very different. And like any brand, they have a team that does it for them. And then I guess the other side of things as an athlete is, I do mine badly, because I always say do as I say, not as I do, because I don't have time, because I'm working on companies, I'm then training, and then the last thing I want to do is do it for myself. But I also do understand the need for it, and understand that for me, I hope that I've said it from then, from my background, is it's a chance for me to help more people than just one person. And so I see it really important for that. And obviously I wangle in the small contracts that I have, I wrangle in what I need to do, because it's about hitting requirements. But I'm not in a lucky position. I don't have massive contracts. I'm not pushed to post certain things. But one thing I always want to do is, if someone sees my social content, if they meet me in person, I'm the same person. I'm the same slightly goofy, think she's funny, probably not funny triathlete that just wants to perform. And I think that's really important. But it is a weird world. And I do think, sadly, social media sometimes is taking over athletes that actually are really good performers, and they might not get contracts because their social isn't quite tip top, when in the old way they would probably be the top athletes. And I think that is hard for some. But it's a weird world we live in right now, I guess.
That's actually one more question that popped into my mind as you were talking, and you kind of alluded to it in your answer. But do you think that we actually came to the point that you can't be the absolutely top level athlete without posting things on social media? Because if you're not on social media, you can have all the physical attributes and all the fitness and everything, but you're just not gonna get the sponsorship deals and everything, all the resources that come with it, if you're not on social media. And is that therefore gonna harm your performers in general?
That's a good question. I think if you are the best of the best of the best, and you win every time by 5 minutes, then I think you'll probably be okay. You'll probably get those contracts because of the coverage you'd get from the Pro Ironman series or T100 footage. Like, as a brand, me speaking as a brand now, there's enough views and enough hits and coverage of you to make it worth it to put my logo on your suit as such, if you're going to win every time or be on the podium every single time. But I think unless you are that person, and again, as you said, unless you've had backing to get that far up, I think it is hard. I think it really is hard. I think you can obviously do it. And I know some triathletes that aren't very present on social media, and they don't want to be, and they are still very good athletes and in their own right. And I always think performance should be taken first. But I think they could possibly run into struggles. And I spoke with one athlete before about it, of when you're on a table and a company is trying to just choose between, let's say, 2 athletes, and they've already got 4, and they need to choose between these last 2, they will drop the one that doesn't have social media. Like, it's going to happen. Even if they're in the top, let's say both in the top 20, they're going to drop the one that doesn't have the hits. And I've been in a room when that's happened, in terms of I haven't made the decision, but it happens in business. It's business. Sponsors are there to better themselves. Obviously they want to better the athlete, but it's business, and it's pretty cruel business sometimes. So I think, yeah, you've got to at least be present, and I think at least show that you're willing to hit your requirements in your contract. And I think that's very important, and that's a partnership. And yeah, it's a hard world, and I actually hate being on the other side of it because I get it for athletes.
I believe, but yeah, like you said, each one of us doesn't have much choice. You're not the one making decisions in the end on
Yeah,
another side. Yeah, so you just have to go with it, and in the end, do what you love to do and what makes it fun for you.
Exactly. And then do what you need to do. I think we're all in that position. Like, some of us need to work, and if that makes me do what I love, we got to do it. If you've got to post on social once a week, you got to do it. And that's the things of between what you love and what you need, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult balance, but I would say that you're dealing with it quite well, at least in my opinion.
Thanks.
So what is your question for the next guest?
Okay, if you could redo one race, which one would it be, and why would you redo it?
Okay, that's an interesting and a fun question. Thank you so much, Eloise, for coming on the podcast, for sharing all this knowledge, your story, all the information. I hope that many people listen to it and take it to heart to learn some things that you went through without making the same mistakes themselves. At the end, if people want to follow you, want to learn more about you, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram, Eloise du Luart, or on YouTube as well, Eloise du Luart. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And yeah, it's nice to be a part of it. And yeah, looking forward to seeing it taking off as well.